Kevin, thank you so much for joining me today to talk about yourself, your company, Zoho, Commercient, and anything else you might want to talk about. But first thing I want to ask is, could you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Sure, Heath, and thank you for inviting me. I'm very pleased to be part of this. I had left. I had worked for IBM and Hewlett Packard and a couple of other computer companies, and in 1993 decided to go out on my own because there was this nascent application called ACT. And this new market of what became customer relationship management. And I was really enthralled with that. I enjoyed working in that more than I actually enjoyed the selling. And so I started my own company as an ACT consultant and I did that for about 20 years. And in there, I also partnered with Goldmine and SalesLogix and even Microsoft CRM for a little while.
Yeah.
But I was getting tired of it. I wanted a true cloud solution. But I found Zoho, and it was just starting up, and I was attracted to it. I found it when I bought my first iPad, and I was looking for CRM applications for the iPad, and I saw Zoho CRM, and I installed it, and it was beautiful. I was vaguely familiar with them, but that really caused me to look into their product, and I signed on as a partner, and I've been a happy Zoho partner for the past 10 years now, exclusively. So
incredible. And I want to dive further into Zoho and then the importance of Commercient integrating that data with our sync. Philosophically speaking, tell me about why a company needs a CRM.
Well, first of all, I want to start with an anecdote. Picture a finance department that had no accounting or ERP software. Everybody could use what they wanted or nothing. So some people use Excel, other people have sheets of paper and Post-it notes. What would you do at the end of the month when you want to know who was paid? What or what payables there were or what receivables? We couldn't exist. We can't even imagine working that way. The same thing is true in the sales organization. We have to know what the forecast looks like. I mean, that has always been a very big part of sales. It's becoming even more important now as companies are acquiring other companies. Certainly they want to look at the books, but they want to look at the funnel. And they do want to understand what's in that funnel or that pipeline, whichever way you prefer to look at it. Sales managers need to understand who the reps are calling on. Are they spending their time or investing their time on the right customers that will pay off? That really then spreads into the service organization as we service our customers and support them. We need that, and many people have talked about this 360-degree view, but we really do need that in every way that we touch a customer. So I couldn't imagine a sales organization without some type of sales software, and they're controlling this.
And how does that help with the experience of keeping customers happy in the long term? The old saying, it costs a lot more to acquire new customers, yet it doesn't cost a lot to keep a customer, but one or two little things could see that customer going to a competitor. How does a CRM keep them happy, keep the sales team in the know? There's so many other things, but I'm just kind of going on the surface of a couple of things there.
I think these days that we all carry such high quotas or need to be so productive that we need a tool that reminds us of who we're calling on, where our next deals are coming from, where we need to focus our time. And I hate to say it, but it also becomes very important when we have changes in the sales organization, when someone departs. That next person in has to hit the ground running. They need to know what was being worked on when they came aboard. And the other part of it too, Heath, is that knowledge of who they're calling on, that really doesn't belong to the rep. That's the company's information.
Yeah.
And they need to know where you're spending their time. They're paying you to do that. So some people call it Big Brother. You could call it that, but I think employers have the right to understand where we're spending our time.
Yeah. I would hate to be a head of sales, VP of sales, and not be able to jump in and see where things are at, where maybe our best seller could maybe assist. We have a customer in England, and they do high volume of sales. And he said they would get a lead, whether they called directly, one way or the other, the customer calls them, they call the customer. And if they're not ready to close that day, they would just go on to the next. And it was such high volume. And they actually implemented Zoho. And he said it was the simple act of a little reminder a few days to a week later saying, hey, follow up with that prospect.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they increased their sales like 10, 15%. It's so simple, but it's something that I think is kind of important with a CRM, especially if you are doing high volume sales. And on the other side of the coin, we have a client that they're from the minute that they talk to a prospect to the time they close could be over a year, because they're dealing with cities and municipalities and stuff in utilities and everything. So we're talking multi-million dollar, but but they can follow that along in their CRM without a problem.
Exactly. And that's why almost every inquiry I get these days, one of the key focuses is we need workflow, we need automation. We want those things done for the rep, because after all, we're not paying the reps to be data entry clerks. We need them out in front of the clients. That's where they're supposed to be. But we do need something from them. So the minimum we need, that we ask of them, and we want the automation doing much more of that. Yeah. Do the background checks, schedule the follow-ups to when you put a quote out or a proposal or whatever it might be. Set reminders there to do that. If something sits open too long, notify the rep. If that if they don't respond, go and start to go to their manager and notify automatically.
Tell me a little bit about Zoho. We've talked prior, and you really went into what I think is just great detail about how their philosophy, how they have apps that kind of like you can stay in one ecosystem and not have to worry about which license is this, which is that, and it all ties together really nicely. And I was, and you talked about you were looking for a CRM that could work on an iPad, and you found Zoho. But tell me a little bit more about Zoho.
One of the talks that Sridhar Vembu, the founder, did years ago at a Zoholics talked about how Zoho got involved in this cloud software. Mm-hmm. And what they realized was that hardware had become commoditized long ago. It's either a Mac or it's a PC. Mm-hmm. There's really no differentiation there. Software had now reached that point. What's really the difference between QuickBooks and Sage 50? Mm-hmm. They're all very much commoditized. So the real differentiator these days is integration among all those disparate software. And that's really where Zoho focused. So they now have a suite of maybe 50 different applications that you can buy as a bundle. But if you buy individually, the integrations are there to non-Zoho accounting and other people's email campaign software and help desk software. Zoho would love you to use their Zoho One bundle, but the integration is there both among their apps into other apps. That's what differentiates a software vendor these days. And I see it myself as I do conversions for clients. I'm working on a Cobra application now. I'm reverse engineering an existing Cobra app that is very closed, has no API, so it can't talk to other applications. You can't customize it anyway. And I'm building that in as an overlay on CRM. And now I or any partner will be able to extend that to however a user would like that to be added. So it's open software with a standard API, industry standard that everybody it's like speaking a common language. So that's the differentiation with Zoho these days. And they're just a great company. Yeah.
And that can mean all the difference in the world for perhaps like a small growing business. It can scale. Yes. Which is nice too. So sure. if your sales are growing and you're hiring more salespeople, they can dive in and they're ready to go. Pretty much, like you said, hit the ground running. Yeah. Now, cloud CRM. What you mentioned, Goldmine and Act, and we actually have a lot of customers where if they weren't using spreadsheets, they were using CRMs like that, and they said that the biggest issue is it's not on the cloud. Why is cloud software such as Zoho CRM so important?
The ability to work from anywhere. I worked from, now that we can work from anywhere, I spent the month of February down in Mexico. Working down there, just simply because it was a change of scenery. And we hear about these people who have taken these offers of people working from home or working from hotels in the Caribbean that reduced the rate during COVID.
Yeah.
The ability that I can log into my software from anywhere, and also on all of my mobile devices, because it goes hand in hand. Cloud apps invariably include very nice mobile apps too. And those mobile apps usually will store data locally on the device. Your location doesn't matter anymore with a cloud solution. And the second thing is that, let's go back to ACT. ACT had to sell new versions every year to keep revenue coming in. So every Labor Day, there was the next version of ACT with a couple of features, which were kind of shiny metal objects, things to attract you to update. And they would certainly drop support maybe 2 or 3 years after. If you were about 3 versions back, they would drop support for that. So if there was a new version of Microsoft Office, yours would stop working if you didn't think and you installed the next version of Office. And then if there were issues out there, again, we'd have to install that software on all 25 computers inside a typical company that were going to be using ACT. And then there would be hot fixes over the course of the year, or service packs, which would be released, which would usually fix some errors that came up during the release. You'd have to go to all 25 machines and install those service packs and install those hot fixes. And then next year, when the next version comes out, you have to install it on all 25 machines. A cloud software is give me a Mac or a Chromebook or a Linux box or a Windows machine. I don't care what I use. I can log in from any of them. All I need is a good browser. That's all I need these days. And it's beautiful.
Yeah, understood. Before I dive into working with Commercient, maybe just a little bit more about what you do for a company with soft skills. So if I'm a business and I need Zoho, I'm going to assume you come in, you talk to the company, you make sure that you see exactly what they need, where they want to go for the future, so scalability and everything. And then plus you have sales experience, which kind of, I think, gives you a nice edge as well as a Zoho consultant and partner. But I was wondering if you could maybe just walk me through briefly, how you help these companies.
Certainly. And I'm embarrassed to admit, I really don't do any outbound. I don't, or cold calling or anything like that. I am listed as all Zoho partners on their Find a Zoho partner website. We're listed in order of the volume of business we do. So there's a premium level, which I'm not in, but I'm in this next level, advanced Zoho partners. So being higher up on that list helps. And there's maybe 160 or 190 partners in the US right at this moment. And maybe 20 of them are premium, the next 20 are advanced like me, and everyone else is authorized. So I get emails mostly. It's usually emails 90% of the time. We're considering Zoho, or we've purchased Zoho. It's a little overwhelming, and we think we need someone to come in and do an implementation for us. And that goes right to a web meeting, invariably. And I listen. I ask the questions. I understand. I want to make sure it's a right fit for both of us. Am I a right fit for them? Are they a right fit for me? I mean, I have a customer profile too that I look for. And I want to make sure that I have the skills that they need to as we say, spin up these applications for them. So you really get to find customers that you like to work with, that there's compatibility, and you have a common goal of what they want to accomplish. So it's a great time to be in this business. All the tools have really fallen into place. So.
That's excellent. And you help with training. And other times you may have to really kind of give them a little bit of extra help to show them that it's not just a tool, that it's something that will help them with their sales and with that customer journey experience and everything.
Yes. Exactly. And as we talked about before, the most frequent requests are for data conversion, which I'll talk about in a moment, for workflow and automation, very important, and reporting. Everybody needs reporting these days, whether it's BI or dashboards or whatever. Those are the three most frequent requests I get. And I do a lot of data conversion because I worked with ACT and Goldmine and Sales Objects. I'm often called on to do conversion of that data from that system. And that just doesn't mean names and addresses and phone numbers. That means all that transactional data going back 10, 15, 20 years, all of the notes, the history, the interactions, the deals that were in there. And we bring that forward into Zoho. And that gives them a level of comfort that they can find their old data in there and look back, and they still have that history of dealing with them. So that plus the reporting plus the automation are the three biggest requests that I get.
Excellent. Now, dovetailing into Commercient. So Commercient integrates ERPs, accounting systems with Zoho. And in some cases, we will also integrate back again. Such as if a new account, updated account, addresses change, or hey, we just opened a new home office and everything. If they're putting their orders in, we'll sync those over, avoiding double data entry. But I think one of the biggest things that I've heard, very simply, is in some ways when Commercient is syncing that ERP data over for the sales team, marketing team, the VP made, hey, listen, we're not letting anybody into the ERP.
Right.
And our poor accounting team is really tired of having to send something as simple as the new address, but it's something as complicated as what did this customer order 6 months ago? I'm about to go see him. How quickly can you get me this report? And they're dropping everything, or inside sales has to do it. But they're getting kind of a supercharged experience of Zoho where they can open up a customer, whether that salesperson has been with them for years or they're a new salesperson, and they can get that snapshot, a little bit more of a complete picture of where that customer is, where they have been. Not all customers order regularly. They may just, I heard a story, a guy says, yeah, one of our customers, they just order for the year, or they order for 9 months, or they order only for 6 months. And then it's like, I can quickly pull up in Zoho what they ordered and then get on the phone with them. But I was wondering if you could talk about the relationship with Commercient and the importance for some of your clients that make heavy use of the ERP and CRM data integration.
Certainly, Heath. What I find, and first of all, let's remember that Zoho makes an accounting software. Zoho Books is their equivalent really to something like a QuickBooks. There's inventory modules, there's expense modules, but it isn't ERP. And I didn't really truly understand the difference between accounting and ERP until we did this first project with my client in the petroleum business. And they had Sage X3. And so coming in as their CRM consultant, the first thing I realized was that Sage X3 wasn't going anywhere. I was not going to displace that. That was a given. I had to coexist peacefully with Sage X3. And Sage X3, as you said, is the authority in that case. That's really where the sales orders, the invoices, and the items are. And at that time, this company had had 2 CRM failures already prior to that. They had started with High Rise, a nice application, but not very customizable by design, and it wasn't scaling up well. And after that failure, since they were running Sage X3, they turned back to Sage and Sage CRM, thinking they would integrate well. And that's not a very productized solution. It's really has to be set up each time for each person, quite custom. That failed. Now they needed a CRM, and this was their third attempt. And one of my clients happened to work and deal with them and demonstrated the Zoho CRM that we had set up for them. And they loved it. He referred me in there, and we came in and put our heads together. Commercient was new to us, and we discovered it by doing some research. And I like to think of Commercient, and I hope you'll take this as a compliment. And as I described it to them, Commercient to me is a black box. I don't care what goes on inside of Sync. And there's 2 connectors, and you pick one from column A and one from column B. And that in that time, there were 4 CRMs. It was Zoho CRM and 3 others. And there were 50 to 60 ERPs, and luckily for us, Sage X3 was the other connector. So you pick your ERP and you pick your CRM, and this black box moves data back and forth as needed. And that's all I needed to know. And we set that up And it was a team effort because it was Commercient's first Zoho implementation, first time they had used that connector.
Mm-hmm.
And so we all worked together really well. We enjoyed working with each other, and we got it set up and working. And that's been in place for 4 years now. And it does move that data. Now, in their case, they only want it coming from Sage X3 into CRM, one direction. Yeah. And that's not unusual. And the point of that was so that their 80 reps in the field, their account managers, independent, could write their own quotes. And those quotes were currently being done by 4 customer service reps in the headquarters. And they were going to push that ability out to those 80 reps in the field. Mm-hmm. And that went over beautifully. They started doing that. Now, one of the modules we synced down from Sage X3 was their invoice headers and their invoice line items. In other words, all the details about their invoices. Mm-hmm. And the unexpected benefit was that the reps could now, using BI and dashboards, see all the orders that were coming in, and their commissions, their livelihoods depended on this. Mm-hmm. So every day they could see what happened the day before. And we didn't have to build a data warehouse or anything like that. It now existed in their CRM. So that was a total win. Here it is 4 years later. It runs reliably and beautifully. And I'm on to my next clients because I only want reliable solutions. I don't want to be called every week. I'm not a tech support company. I'm not a call center. I want to set and forget. So I want applications where they're reliable and there's a company like Commercient behind Sync taking care of any issues that pop up, which rarely do. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember speaking with your client, and he said, wow, here it all is. Here's the customer data, customer contacts. And, for them, it's important to streamline their processes with Zoho, which was, like you said, it was brand new. Yeah. And he says that their operations who would have been manually moving that data, X3 data over, instead are able to focus on other things. And he actually said that's where their profits are going to come first, because they're cutting the costs of not having to say, okay, for X hours a day, you're going to be moving this data manually over. By having Sync come in, they just cut that time in half. And now that person can focus on so many other things that would lead to growing the business and everything. I've heard you mentioned out in the field. I spoke to a customer who they have one person at the home office and then maybe an assistant. So inside sales, everybody is out in the field. And not only do they want to be able to pull up on, say, Zoho, the information about the customer, not just what we're syncing, but what has been put in there. They also want to know something as simple as if they ask a question, can you get this in? Do you have this particular item in stock? We can sync that over and they can say yes. And there's nothing worse, I think, than telling a customer to hang on 1 second, whether it's on the phone or in person, while I check. That kind of almost, they're just going to buy it almost on a whim. They may cool off on it, and then they're, next time there may not be another opportunity for that. Just giving you a couple of examples of what I heard, especially with the field people and everything. And again, not having to have somebody, whether it's accounting, drop what they're doing, or inside sales, and saying, let me get this PDF out to you. And then I'm out there in the field trying to make heads or tails as quickly as possible, because I'm probably coming from one client, driving really quickly to the next client. And then I only have so much time during the day. And that's a great way to maximize that time.
Agreed.
Excellent. I think that's it for me. Is there anything else you wanted to add before I let you go?
No, I just want to mention that, I've been exclusively a Zoho partner since I've been aboard with Zoho. I don't represent any other CRMs. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of telephony vendors that are often approaching Zoho partners to say, we'd like you to sign up for our SMS or telephony or whatever it might be. And I've resisted that because I need to understand the 50 or so Zoho apps. That's all I have bandwidth for. Yeah. But I realized I was looking at my opportunities that Commercient was needed in more and more opportunities. And that's why I applied to join the Commercient Partner Program. It's the only other partner program that I'm part of because you are integral to my business. And I tend to go towards larger clients who may not be on a QuickBooks or a Zoho Books candidate. They're on a real ERP system. And as I said before, I don't attempt to displace these. I need to coexist with them. And Commercient SYNC makes that possible.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. And Kevin, thanks for your time today.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
I always enjoyed talking with you, Heath. Thank you and have a good weekend.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
Thanks.